What is good and bad? I do not know. But I do know that it's often brought up in religious debates because apparently society needs religion. Otherwise, all our morals will die off and civilization will collapse, anarchy will ensue, and Satan will rise out of the earth and make us all homosexuals. Strangely, I don't think that's going to happen, but at the risk of strawmanning this, here's the real argument. Religion gives us source of morality because if we have an understanding of the creator of morals, then we have an understanding of what is good and bad. Without that, we cannot possibly possess the knowledge of what is good and bad because we don't know what good and bad is. Now, the common misstep I see here by people who use this argument is that they assume you can't believe in an objective moral standard without believing in a deity, a god, a goddess, or a higher power of some sort. Why not? What people don't seem to realize is that there's this whole debate on morals outside of religious debates. There are basically two different types of ideas about morality. One is that it's objective, which means that it's just as there are mathematical laws, there are physical laws, there are natural laws, there are objective moral laws that govern what is good and bad. The other idea is that morals are subjective. They depend on the individual's opinion, as well as the culture and society of the place and time. Now, with natural laws, I don't think it's necessary to believe in a deity to believe that these laws are there. 93% of the National Academy of Scientists do not believe that a deity exists. Now, some of the members say they're unsure, which I think is a natural stance for this type of question. If a deity is metaphysical, and we're stuck in the physical world, how are we supposed to study the metaphysical? We can't. We can't study, sample, observe, or analyze it. So there's no real way to gain any knowledge to this question. So we don't know why mathematical laws and physical laws exist, if indeed there is a why, because that question itself is metaphysical. It could have been the multiverse, it could have been deity, it could have popped into existence, it could have been Twilight Sparkle. Everything is up for grabs because the metaphysical, if it does exist, doesn't have any constraints our physical world has. So any possible solution you can think of could be true. So when religious people ask me, well, how'd the universe get here? Did it just pop into existence? Possibly. It doesn't sound any crazier than a designer, because if our universe begs a designer, certainly the designer would beg a designer, and that designer would beg a designer, which leads us to an infinite regression of the worst kind. As you keep going back, the deities and the metaphysical universes which they would inhabit become infinitely more complex. I mean, from what we've seen of our universe, things tend to go the other way, from simple to complex. Not complex to simple. As you go back in time, life gets more simple, up until you get to the first single-celled organisms in the primordial soup. I love that term, by the way, primordial soup. It's a term for the ancient oceans of Earth where life first started, which is pretty epic, but I just like the way it sounds. It just sounds cool. Primordial soup. So a designer is possible, but since all we can really do is speculate, I will say it causes some philosophical problems. Of course, you could say, well, the metaphysical doesn't abide by our philosophies. Okay? So you can really attribute anything to the metaphysical that you want, which again means that any type of cause you can think of is up for grabs. Any crazy idea you want could be true. And they're all just as likely to be true. But, back to morals. As I said, not all religious people believe in objective morals, not all non-religious people believe in subjective morals. You can believe that there are objective morals without believing in a deity. It's just instead of being caused by design, they were caused by nature or something else, or the cause is unknown. We can observe mathematical and physical laws. We don't know why gravity exists, if indeed there is a why, but we know that it's there. Similarly, there could be objective moral laws that exist, but we just don't know how or why. In fact, I would say many religious people actually believe in subjective morality, because if a deity created the universe from nothing, morality would have to be created from nothing, which means that that deity would have to decide what is right and wrong from nothing. And that seems rather arbitrary. I think most religious people have this idea that it knew what was right and wrong, and then the deity just set those morals into place. But that can't be, because if the deity is omnipotent, it wouldn't be bound by any higher power. It couldn't be bound by moral laws. So that means it must have had to just pick out and decide what was right or wrong. And I could still do that. It could make killing right. It could make slavery right. So this isn't an objective moral system. It's a subjective moral system. It's not subjective to us, but it is subjective to the higher power. And if the system can just change at a whim, how can you say there's a definite right or wrong? All that aside, do objective or subjective morals really exist? My problem with the idea of objective morality is that we can observe mathematical and physical laws, but we can't objectively observe moral laws. The best you can do is just to poll people. Do you think this is right? Do you think this is wrong? And see what most people say. But I mean, other natural laws aren't based on popularity. I don't think nature cares if you agree with gravity or not. It's still there. So if objective moral laws do exist, how are we supposed to know what those are? And if you look at cultures from different places and time periods, you do see different ethical standards. I mean, look how long slavery went on. If there are objective morals, wouldn't it be obvious that that was wrong? Now, subjective morals are said to derive from empathy, an understanding and acknowledgement of your fellow human beings. And I think that's a pretty good way to look at it. That's what modern governments are set up to do, benefit the common good for most people. And I think that putting people's feelings, people's emotions at the forefront is much better than putting the feelings of a deity who nobody's even certain exists in front of everything. Why shouldn't you kill? Well, God doesn't like it. So don't do that. Why are we against killing? Because very few people like the idea of death, and it would make for a very bad society if we weren't against murder. That seems like a pretty good reason for me. So I guess that it's worth talking about the way that religious and non-religious people may view morals differently in general, but really the nature of morality is a debate unto itself. And you can believe in objective or subjective morals whether you're religious or not. Because people like to act like, well, all of them believe that way and all of them believe that way. And, no, not in this case. So those are my thoughts, and I suggest you subscribe for more.